Okay, now we are in our focus on Philippines and China, and we're focusing on the speech of His Excellency Premier Li Keqiang at the 20th China-ASEAN Summit. Why is this important? Well, here, Prime Premier Li Keqiang outlined the vision China wishes to share with ASEAN for 2030, a goal. So we will analyze this. I think we projected the speech of Premier Li Keqiang there. There are very key concepts here which we would like to explain as we go along. One of the first things Premier Li Keqiang mentioned is that China was one of the first to support and to
The first.
again
The first.
the first to agree to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, and this was in 1975. Premier Li Keqiang went back to history to say we have always tried to strive for this.
We've always supported
Every effort to build peace and cooperation, friendship and cooperation, amity and cooperation in Southeast Asia. And Li Keqiang also discussed the many free trade agreements of China with ASEAN countries individually and ASEAN now. So there you can see, we just took it from Wikipedia and highlighted
China was also the first to sign a free trade agreement with ASEAN.
With ASEAN. And now, after you review the history of our trading, China is now the biggest, in fact, the past 8 years,
consecutively,
the biggest trading partner. How much is it now?
With China. The two-way trade is at 400 billion.
400 billion. And what is the target in?
By 2020 to hit 1 trillion.
2020, that's only 3 years from now.
3 years from now, very ambitious. But actually, it's on track.
Again, the target is 1 trillion?
1 trillion, 1 trillion by 2020.
Per annum.
I believe that's total.
Total?
Yes.
Okay.
2020.
Okay. And now it's now the largest trading partner, and of course, China President Li reiterated China's President Xi Jinping promoting the 21st century maritime Silk Road in this area. I think we have a map of that. If we can show that there. This is the most recent map that now includes the Philippines, because in past maps of the maritime Silk Road, the Philippines was not connected. Now with the good relations, it's now beginning to show the connection. So, how is this going to be achieved, this Vision 2030? And the Vision 2030, we will explain later on, is summarized in the formulae 2 plus 7 and 3 plus X. We will go into that later on. So the basic means by which all these can be achieved is what? The Belt and Road Initiative, or the One Belt, One Road. And well, in the meantime, of course, maybe some people get confused about the meaning of ASEAN plus 1, ASEAN plus 2, ASEAN plus 3. Well, ASEAN plus 1 means ASEAN plus one country, China. There is also ASEAN plus Japan, ASEAN plus US meetings. And then there is the ASEAN plus 2 or plus 3. Plus 3, for example, ASEAN with China, Japan South Korea, and so on. Just so you get a background on how this diplomatic language and all these agreements are phrased. Now, most significant, of course, all these is taking the China-ASEAN relations to new heights. And so this is officially recognized by all parties. But of course, the most important is the Code of Conduct. What's the status now? If you are been following this, you have anything to add here at this point?
Perhaps it's to give another perspective that the China-ASEAN 2030 vision is it highlights the ability to integrate and to combine different dimensions. On one hand, as Kamentong, you mentioned that it's a historical account of the friendship and cooperation. It's also a vision. More interestingly for me, it's also a roadmap, actually. It's a guideline for example, on the people-to-people connectivity. China pledged to make available 20,000 scholarships for ASEAN brothers and sisters in the next 3 years. And as we know, when China gives a number, it means it's already studied.
That's right.
The practicality and the
budget
feasibility and the budget for there is there.
Mm.
So with 10 ASEAN countries at 20,000 in the next 3 years, that's about 2,000 scholars that will benefit from all of these developments. In addition, just to give context to our audience, China, we have to look at China differently. There's a lot of detractors that look at China's rise, but actually China has risen. And if we look at it, like for example, using analogy of a family, China is a brother that.
Well, I call China the elder brother.
The elder brother,
Asia.
right?
There's another elder brother, India.
Using that as an analogy, this is the brother that made it. Yeah. He struggled. It wasn't perfect.
Very good analogy.
He made trials and errors along the way, but he was able to uplift 800 million people out of poverty. So this is the brother that got it right. Along the way, it became rich. And now he's rich. And he wants to help the younger brothers, the cousins, to be richer also, because one rich brother in a family of poor or undeveloped siblings it's no fun. Everybody will just get jealous or create instability in the family. But if everybody becomes richer, people can enjoy each other's company. They can enjoy the same parties, the same food, the same comforts in life. So I believe this is a demonstrative of China's being able to look at the vision and the practicality. And it's up to us. It's up to the ASEAN countries to make use of it or to benefit from it or to exploit it.
Well, before we go into the code of conduct, which is another crucial aspect, I'll pause and focus on this. And China has this vision worked out and communicated it to the ASEAN partners in this 20th meeting. And it's summarized in the formulae, as I mentioned, 2+7. What is 2+7?
The 2+7 focuses on
2 is the
focus
trust
on
and
trust building and economic
development. In other words, the 2 means first China and ASEAN should develop the trust.
Correct.
And then the economic rise.
Correct.
In what is the 7? In 7 fields.
In 7 fields.
From infrastructure,
trade, tourism,
infrastructure, telecommunications, and so on. So 7 fields. So when we read China's messages, we should understand these. Now, the 2+7 should lead to the 3+X. X being the desired,
the unknown.
The unknown, and that is the vision, the unknown potential.
And the 3 is?
And the 3 are 3 pillars of this.
On the ASEAN 3 pillars of political, economic,
I wrote on this
and sociocultural.
Entitled United for an ASEAN-China Vision and Partnership. And 3+X is the 3 pillars which are political security, like the instance of the Marawi incident, and China's response to it was to donate 3,000 arms and sniper rifles,
when others did not
night vision and so on, and 1 million rounds or 3 million rounds of ammunition.
By the way, China was the first foreign country to assist.
Yes. Economy and trade, well, the 2 bridges donated, the 25 billion investment arrangements, the existing immediate around 4 or 5 billion US dollar projects, including the Manila-Legazpi rail, and of course, the Chico Dam irrigation and the Kaliwa Dam water supply for Metro Manila. So that's the economic. And people-to-people exchange. That 20,000 scholars, for example, is just one of the countless people-to-people exchanges being developed between China, ASEAN, and in particular the Philippines. So remember, 2 plus 7, 3 plus X means concrete fruits for the relationship.
Right.
Yeah?
Of partnership and mutual benefits.
Yeah. So, shall we move on to the crucial other aspect, which is political, the Code of Conduct for the South China Sea, which began maybe 10 years ago. No, even more. I think this was early first decade of the 2000s. And where the declaration for the Code of Conduct was agreed upon, and then of course it was earlier this year that the framework, I think August of 2017, the framework for the Code of Conduct was agreed upon, and now there is an agreement also to start the dialogue, which the Philippines and China has engaged in, and then ASEAN too, starting January of next year, 2018. So this, of course, addresses this past controversy over how the nations involved in the disputes in the South China Sea and the China Sea should react and avoid any mishaps in the relationships. So, anything you want to add to that?
To provide the context and a perspective, we must remember that the South China Sea, for thousands of years, was considered a lake of friendship. It was a body of water that connected rather than divided. It's only in the previous several years when issues became politicized that the South China Sea became a lake of tension and instability. So I believe for the current developments, the fundamental premise is development is peace, peace is development. You can only have development in a peaceful environment, and you can only ensure peace and harmony if people feel they are part of the development. And as current development shows, the widening gap between the rich and the poor and the developed and the developing really causes a lot of tension and disharmony in society. So more and more these developments become imperative and vital for global, we have now 7 billion people, and as the world's getting smaller, people actually become more contentious because of the disparity. So we really have to focus more on the development and the practical approach. In terms of the code of conduct, I believe we will leave it best for the politicians to and the government officials to find the best way forward. But essentially, I feel it's hard to negotiate if you have a lot of bad blood or enmity. So I believe this is really an opportune time because as the member states have agreed, we have warmed up and we have built a more cordial atmosphere for better win-win negotiations on the table.
Well, the Prime Minister Li Keqiang described the current situation of the talks on the South China Sea as showing a positive momentum. So it is in the right direction. And that's also all based on the realities on the ground where the U.S., without openly admitting it, is exercising also more flexibility. And in fact, our first news item where many nations are now asking China an assurance for peaceful passage and so on. And China says we are the biggest user of this. We are the most interested in keeping it open. In the meanwhile, in the past decades, the U.S. and Australia and I think New Zealand has had this operation, this military naval exercise, Talisman Sabre, which was designed to block the Straits of Malacca. And obviously the target there was China, because China uses, I think, to the tune of trillions, this passage as trade for its oil and its goods, its exports. So there are changing realities, and we're happy that it is now an Asian country interested in keeping it open. That is assuring everybody. Now, the final point here, since we're nearing the end of our discussion and focus on this China-Philippine relations, for me, this is of course an expression of China's exertion of leadership in the region. And of course, there will be some who will react negatively and say, why do we have to follow the lead of China and so on? It is not a matter of desire. It is a matter of realism. You know? China has the biggest market. It is the biggest power. If it is a malevolent power, we will feel the effects. But what we see is a benevolent power, you know? Because it is wise from its 5,000 years of history, knowing that it cannot progress too in a neighborhood that is not progressing. I think that is the message of win-win, a constant message we hear from China. And of course, from the latest message from President Xi Jinping in the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. This is the new era in international relations. What can IDC add to that in your last seminar?
We must remember that China is amoral. If you look at the data, China works with developed countries. It works with the US, even if they are actually competitors in the global stage. They have billions of cooperation annually. In fact, with Trump's visit to Beijing, they signed 250 billion worth of projects. So actually, our 24 billion is just a minute percentage. And China and the U.S. again competing, but working together. So the trend today is co-opetition. China works with
I think what
Britain,
you're referring, what you're referring to amoral is really non-ideological.
Non-ideological. It works with whoever wants to work with it.
Yeah.
It's up to us to negotiate or
it doesn't demand shared values.
It doesn't demand, right?
It just wants win-win.
Right,
win-win.
right.
You benefit, we benefit.
Correct, correct. This is what we want. This is what you can offer. This is what you want. This is what we can offer.
Yeah.
If we agree to disagree, and we agree on common grounds where we can work with. So essentially, the trend now is to make friends with everybody and enemies to none.
Yeah, right. And of course, one of the ringing messages from President Xi Jinping's speech, 3.5-hour speech at the 19th Congress, is destiny of shared or community of shared destiny for all nations.
Community of shared destiny.
What is that shared destiny?
We only have one world.
One world, and what they're saying is
either we make it peaceful or we make
trust and economic development.
Correct.
Trust and economic development. And of course, again, I repeat this in several of my shows. We're nearing our Yuletide season. One of my childhood joys is to listen to that slogan or that motto, peace on earth, goodwill to men. I think that is what China is referring to as a community of shared destiny. Right. So anyway, any last words?
The opportunity is really great, and it is there, but it's really up to us Filipinos to make best use of it. Nobody will do it for us. We have to get our house in order and take advantage of the opportunities available.
Yes, and my final word is we are one family. Asia is one family. We have experienced several hundred years of Western incursions. Now that's over. Let's work together with our elder brother and hopefully the other elder brother too, India, and work towards that community of shared destiny. So thank you very much and see you next week. Thank you very much.